Man, and I thought it was cool when B.O.B. used Morgan Freeman on his album. This just blows that out of the water. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Music Gauntlet channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day so far, and today we are going to be talking about the latest album from 21 Savage and Metro Boomin called Savage Mode 2. Stating the obvious here, this is not the first time that Metro Boomin and 21 Savage have worked together before. I mean, this is literally named after their 2016 tape, the original Savage Mode. I guess now being labeled Savage Mode 1, is that what we gotta start doing? We gotta start calling it Savage Mode 1? This is far from their only collaborations though. All the times that 21 Savage has used Metro Boomin beats on his own projects aside, they would regroup again in 2017 with Offset for the project Without Warning. At the time, 21 Savage and Offset weren't viewed as the most essential rappers to be hearing in the game at that point. And Without Warning didn't necessarily completely change that, but it definitely made them people to keep an eye out for. They complemented Metro Boomin's dark and menacing beats that made up the entirety of that project and came out in the perfect time right in the heat of October for that real spooky season feel. Following that project, 21 Savage would also appear several times on Metro Boomin's debut album in 2018, Not All Heroes Wear Capes, which includes the iconic song Don't Come Out the House, which finds 21 Savage rapping murderously in ASMR in the latter half of the track. It's actually pretty funny. So, as far as 21 Savage goes, he's been relatively quiet over the past couple years ever since his 2018 release I Am Greater Than I Was, a project that actually found him stepping a bit out of his comfort zone despite it being ever so slightly. He started viewing things from a more mature lens, looking at all the wrongdoings that he did in his past and thinking if any of those are going to catch up to him in his current lifestyle. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of the beats still hit hard and he was still talking about that gang shit he usually does, but it very much seemed like he was improving on all fronts of his music, from the technicality to the flows to the beats to the delivery. All of it seemed to be just getting better and better. On top of that, he was going at his music from the perspective of, I want to be here for a long time, not just a good time. And as far as Metro Boomin goes, it seemed like he had his height in the mid-2010s. Not saying he's burnt out, but if you release that much good material within the span of a couple years, wouldn't you want a break as well? I'm sure after releasing hit after hit, he wanted a little bit of recoup time and time to think about his trajectory of his career. And he was still releasing some good shit, it just wasn't as in bulk, as much as it was being buckled down for selective projects. So let's cut the chit chat. These are two outstanding forces that have come together before to give us some good projects. Now, years later, with both of them maturing, was their latest collaboration, Savage Mode 2, going to be their most refined and hard-hitting to date? Or was it going to end up being a project that both artists could have done better at the end of the day? Well, ladies and gentlemen, while this album doesn't do anything to reinvent the wheel, it does enough to stand out in a crowded landscape and prove that 21 Savage isn't giving up his craft anytime soon. While there are some moments that are better than others on this thing, overall it does play out very nicely, and that does have to do with not only 21 Savage himself, but the cohesion factors of Metro Boomin's production and the most kick-ass narration I've ever heard across an album with Morgan Freeman. I might as well get that out of the way while I'm talking about it. Morgan Freeman sounds like a total badass all over this project. I genuinely got goosebumps hearing his Snitches and Rats interlude when he had the very ending line when he says a rat is a fucking rat and just lets that line trail off into the next song. Oh my god, it sounds so fucking cool. If you take Morgan Freeman out of this album and the inserts that his voice has over some of these songs, it doesn't take away much from the project, but it definitely adds a cool factor about it that helps you listen to the album all the way through. If you do so, then you're gonna hear him talking cohesively about the different topics that 21 Savage is addressing throughout the album. Getting into the actual music here though, Metro Boomin and 21 Savage are just a match made in heaven. They sound so comfortable working with each other, and the chemistry is just straight undeniable. If anything, is getting better. His production here doesn't just make 21 Savage sound more sinister and lively, but also makes this whole album feel as though you're talking to a godfather of the game. They're not just telling you street cautions and what you should be wary about. They are doing that, but at the same time, they're also telling you stories of their past and what they've been through to get to the place that they're at now. The luxury didn't come without pain. It's what makes songs like Run and Work so effectively. For the most part, 21 Savage is still sticking to the theme of gang talk, but with the exception of talking from the perspective of being able to move in different ways, being able to handle his issues head on if he really wants to, but not having to put himself in that danger. His notion of running the game effortlessly is greatly enhanced by Metro Boomin's production, having these eerie looped background vocals on top of these piano keys that are like you're hitting the E, F, G type keys on the piano. You know when you're at your grandma's house and you're trying to make that Beethoven dramatic sound, but then she tells you to stop messing around with her piano because you know she's never gonna play it, but for some reason doesn't want you to play it, so it's just gonna sit there and collect dust and you're just gonna have all your other relatives touch it and then you get in trouble for doing it. Anyways, this is also what makes the track Many Men one of my favorite songs here. 21 Savage just talking about the people in his life that are jealous of what he has and there are many men that want to kill him, but Metro Boomin just coming through so hard with the production, having these twinkling synth keys and having this eerie woodwind background instrumental. It's one thing for 21 Savage to tell you that every day he's dealing with these issues, but then it's another for Metro Boomin to make you feel it. In the current moment when you're listening to that song, you feel for 21 Savage, you feel the fear that he feels almost on a daily basis. Not to mention the soundbite he takes from 50 Cent's actual song, looping the phrase many many men towards the end, giving it a really haunting atmosphere. While all of the album does root back to 21 Savage just talking that street shit, some of it does get a little more diverse in the content that it covers. After we get the explanation on Snitches and Rats, the interlude, about the difference between the two, we get 21 Savage and Young Nudie on the actual track Snitches and Rats, talking about the interactions they've had with those certain kinds of people, highlighting the moral integrity that comes with staying true to yourself and not snitching on the people that matter to you, and also being obviously a topical focus for our current age and certain other rappers. I really like on the track My Dog how he bleeds together these topics that have brought him some kind of hardship in his life, but he's never complained about it despite how hard it's been on him. He addresses being born in the UK and all the memes that came out of that situation, but on a serious note, how he didn't want his mom to feel like she was to blame for it. This whole song is about how he makes his own choices in life and doesn't want people around him to feel like they're responsible for something that happens to him. He's a man, he'll take responsibility for his actions no matter what the cost is. A great song to be having right after the Snitches and Rats track. He even gets into detail about his past relationships, talking about one in particular on the track RIP Love that had a huge effect on him. He thought this girl was the one for him, but they both had issues with him cheating on her, she cheating on him, and I don't necessarily agree with the fact that he's mad at her for cheating on him when he was the first one to do it, but at the very least he's open about it and leaves out no facts, letting the listener make judgments for themselves. These are also moments though where I noticed 21 Savage was coming up a little bit short. RIP Love was a good example where he told us about something traumatizing relationship-wise in his past, but he doesn't do enough to actually go into detail about it. He just kind of gives the very surface level basics about the situation, which is the problem I have with a lot of the tracks where he's trying to diversify his content. He never gets deep enough to make the listener truly care about what he's talking about. It's almost as though he's doing it so we can say he has more diverse content on here than he actually does, and those moments come off a lot more dull than the rest of the project, no matter how hard Metro Boomin is making the beat. It's evident that 21 is way more in his bag when he's talking about street codes as opposed to trying to get more personal and leaving out some details that would make a story or paint an image a lot better. Overall, this album played out extremely well. The only major hiccup that I ran across listening to this was Mr. Right Now, which just made this album come to a complete dead stop with the beat from the Drake feature. Literally 21 Savage was the only saving grace of that whole song. I don't know what Metro was thinking with these looped synth lines, and then the Drake feature is just completely throwaway, talking about nothing of substance. The only interesting thing addressing a relationship he had with SZA back in 08, which isn't even factual, he just did it for the rhyme scheme. I mean, compare that with the glitzy laid back track Real Narwhal shit and you'll just hear a way better collaboration with Young Thug fitting way better into the Metro Boomin pocket. Choruses as well have never really been 21's strong suit and don't do him the best of favors here. I mean, sure, sometimes they can be catchy and humorous, but overall they can be sometimes repeated too much to the point where they become annoying. As much as My Dog is one of my favorite songs on here, it does suffer from this symptom of repeated chorus. To wrap this thing up, I'm really impressed with the effort on this project as a whole. Despite 21 Savage sticking to the topics that he knows best outside of a few exceptions, he has the good sense to make his albums more engaging with extremely heavy and dark production from Metro Boomin and engaging and interesting interludes all across this thing with Morgan Freeman. I mean, I've listened to this thing a handful of times by now and I still enjoy hearing Morgan Freeman talk whenever he's present. It would be very easy for 21 to continually put out music just to keep his name out there, but instead he's smart enough to let the anticipation and hype build up for his projects, not alluding to them until like a week or two before they're supposed to drop. And then when they do drop, they're of good enough quality where you can go back to them time and time again, even months after this album was released. The biggest problem with trap music today is it's becoming a lot of throwaway music. It's becoming music that's just compiled into one project with these double albums and everything where you listen to it and it's just a slog to listen to, especially for your first listen. 21 Savage is taking the alternate route, making these trap projects sound elegant and making every track matter. Yes, he's still aiming for that commercial appeal, that's just obvious, but in doing so he's still trying to make his albums stand the test of time. He's now at the point in his career when he can turn around and look at the fans that he's accumulated over the years, acknowledging that he's making music just for the fans, people that really care about him as an artist, showing them that he's grown a lot and appreciates the love and support. At the same time, still keeping it grimy and gritty, that shit that people came to him for in the first place. Despite some songs that were better than other ones and this album as a whole being a bit of a slog, it still proves that Metro Boomin and 21 Savage can come together for the most dynamic duo that ever has existed, and that 21 Savage is still becoming a better and better artist. Not to hold back on Metro's credit credit either. I can tell he's becoming better and better with time as well. Though this isn't one of my favorite projects of the year, I'm still glad I listened to it, and I'm glad I have it for this October season, because the dark themes on this thing fit right in. With another successful collaboration under his belt, now I'm just curious to see, as 21 Savage's solo career, where is it going to take him next, and what does the next project have in store? But in the meantime, at least we have Savage Mode 2 to destroy the bass in all of our vehicles. Now, this is the part of the video where I rank this album out of the rest of 21 Savage's discography, and yes, I'm gonna rank it out of 21 Savage's discography because I could do Metro Boomin, but this is more so focusing on 21 Savage, the artist that is covering a majority of this tape. And with that being said, as much as I did like this project, I still have to say my favorite 21 project is I Am Greater Than I Was. Just a really mature project where 21 is diversing his content and beat selection, and I'm not saying he doesn't do those things necessarily on Savage Mode 2, but I just like it when he does it more as a solo venture. Followed by Without Warning, which I like more as a collaboration project. I think it was shorter, a lot more consistent, a lot more sweet. It wasn't dragged out, it was the perfect length it needed to be, and I love the beats on that project as well. Followed by finally Savage Mode 2, and then the original Savage Mode, Issa Album, Slaughter King, and then the Slaughter Tape. The first couple of tapes Savage released, you could definitely tell there was room for growth. He was very monotone, icy, which worked to his delivery and his cadence and what he was talking about, but at the end of the day didn't make for very interesting projects. Over the years, you could tell he evolved and diversified what he was talking about. His beat selection, Metro Boomin, definitely helped with that, and that's what leads to my favorite projects. For my top 5 songs off Savage Mode 2, I would have to go Runnin', Rich Narwhal Shit, Many Men, My Dog, and Said and Done. And I think that is going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way into the end. If you made it all the way into the end, I truly appreciate it. If you want to talk about this album, is this one of your favorite 21 Savage projects, one of your least favorites? Let me know in the comment section below, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and we can talk about it there. If you want to leave a like or subscribe, I would truly appreciate that as well. And that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.